Hello everyone. This week with my internship with the Department of Corrections, it was pretty interesting and I got to do some hands-on work with my probation officer this week. One thing I really enjoyed this week is that my probation officer let me write a major violation report, which throughout this video I'll use MVR. That's what they use for the abbreviation, but this was probably the most interesting thing I did all week. Basically, there was a man who had already had a few violations before, and my probation officer asked me to write or go through his reports and read through his past 3 MVRs and asked me to summarize the information so that it was clear and easy to understand when going through the process of creating a new MVR. Basically, I reviewed the information. I helped write a report that would go to the court explaining why he should be charged with another probation violation. It was almost kind of like writing a paper, but it was actually something that would be used in the real court system. I just thought that was super cool because it made me feel like I was doing more, taking a step more into hands-on work than just kind of sitting and observing. So that was pretty fun for me, and I like doing that kind of stuff. I like to be involved. I feel like that's how I learn more, so I felt really good about this week. Something that was challenging this week is making sure that I understood all the information about writing the MVR. There was a lot of details and like different violations, so I had to take my time reading everything correctly, and I don't want to miss anything important or summarize something wrong. Writing an MVR, you start at the most current charge, and so when it's asking questions about his history, you don't count that charge because it's the most current charge. So that was definitely confusing for me to catch on really quick. So I think that was probably the most hardest part of this week. Seeing how all of this is written out really helped me understand how probation officers communicate with judges and just kind of the court system in general. I also saw how I could use my criminal justice education this week. In a lot of my criminal justice classes, we've talked about things like accountability, documentation, how like the court system works, and writing an MVR and looking through those past reports really connected to what I have talked about in some of my criminal justice classes. So I think that helped me see how things that we learn in class actually apply to real situations that at least with probation and parole. For my optional element, I'm picking A. I definitely think the most interesting thing I did was the MVR this week because that's kind of what I'm mainly talking about. It gave me a chance to kind of participate and process instead of kind of just sitting back and watching. I think it's also a lot easier for me to start doing hands-on thing and participating now that I have my own like little computer. I had to review past violations, organize information, help make a paper for the new violation, and explain basically why the violation should be taken seriously and he should be charged for another probation violation. Besides that, I sat in on a few meetings with my probation officer. Meetings were pretty simple. We only had 2 meetings. Both people were doing very well, so it was basically just like a regular check-in to just get the probation officer and the probationer kind of just talking and make sure everything's good. But for both of them, it was pretty good. So the meetings aren't too long or anything. I think even though the meetings were pretty easy, it was still good to see how probation officers interact with people who are doing pretty well and, you know, staying on track with things that they need to do or get done. Another cool thing that happened this week was I got my own key fob, so that's pretty cool. I can go in and out the building now, and I don't have to like text my probation officer, oh, I'm here, come let me in. So that's pretty cool. So I get to keep that until the end of my internship, so that's a lot easier and pretty cool. But overall this week it was a really good experience. I think it helped me when I wrote the real violation report, and sitting in on meetings, it just basically made me understand more about probation officers and how they do their job every day and different aspects of the job. It's not always just sitting at the desk and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty cool, and I think it also showed me how important documentation is and communication is in the criminal justice system. So yeah, I'd say this week was a pretty successful week.